Shalom. First and foremost, I want to start by giving all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham, Rekah HaKodash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone who rule well and teach well. And peace and blessings to the hopeful elect, pushing this word with all truth, righteousness, and sincerity. Shalom, shalom. This is your brother Quan Wath with the Great Millstone Charlotte Camp. Coming with a quick lesson through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai. And this afternoon or this morning, I just want to touch on the topic of, right, what we're seeing right now is all the good pleasure of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, right? This is all, right, within his plan, right? All these things are the will of the Lord being executed in the earth, right? So we have nothing to fear, right? We know these things are required to happen in order for us to get to the kingdom. You know, that's why I have here in Luke 12 and 32. Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom, right? So what we're seeing, World War III, brewing. We see the coming economic collapse. We see the sedition, right? Jacob's trouble, right, on the horizon. All these things are the good pleasure of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, right? In order to get us to where we are, our ultimate goal, man, right? Is to to be redeemed out of here, to receive salvation, right, and receive the kingdom alongside Yahweh Shai, man, right? So this is just the good pleasure of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai being exercised in the earth, man, right? His will, right, as the Lord's Prayer, right? Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, man, right? His will is being done in the earth, and we're going through hard times right now, but these hard times are required in order for us to get, right, to that ultimate peace, Now let's get, we'll get this first. Get this Acts 14 and 22. This is Acts chapter 14 and verse 22. Because with this understanding, right, we're being strengthened, right? We'll read this in the NLT. It says, where they strengthened the believers, they encouraged them to continue in the faith, reminding them that we must suffer many hardships to enter the kingdom of the Most High, right? So when it says here in the KJV, confirming the souls of the disciples, man, right? All the believers are having their faith strengthened in these times, right? As well as the non-believers are having their lack of faith being showcased, right? We see that with, IUIC, just being the flavor of the week with the bug out bags, man, right? They're preaching a doctrine of faithlessness, man. Now, there's nothing wrong with, preparing things, but it's the mindset that you're going into these times with, right? Thinking that you're going to be able to, out prep the Lord, man, out prep prophecy, But the point being that we're going to go through many hardships, many, difficult things on our way to the kingdom, man. But it's the purpose that the Lord has set forth, right, in order for us to be, deserving of it, right? He has to prove us in all these things in order to see, that this is what we deserve, right? Or that we're worthy. Let's go here to Psalm 51. Psalms 51. And this whole chapter is, a beautiful read for the times that we're going into, man. Just to maintain the spirit, right? To understand, right, the significance, of what we need from Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, right? But the point I wanted to get here is verse 18. It reads, do thy good pleasure unto Zion, right? So the good pleasure of the Lord, right, being unto Zion, being unto the elect, right? It says, build thou the walls of Jerusalem, because the third temple, right, is being established in the spirit now, right? The the body of Yahweh Bashim Shai is being built up as we speak, you know? And that's again the good pleasure of Yahweh Bashim Shai, right? Watching our enemies, right, in their final that last hoorah, so to speak, right? Right, as they they set forth for that this coming world war, right? This is the pleasure of the Lord, right? The scriptures say that the king's heart is in the hands of the Lord, man, right? He turneth it whithersoever he will, right? All these things are going according to Yahweh Shai Shai's plan, man, right? And like I said, do good pleasure unto Zion. These are all to our favor, right? Everything that's happening that's so-called bad, right, is beneficial unto the elect, right? And it's going to be beneficial unto the world ultimately, right? Because as you read, I believe it's Second Esdras, I want to say 7th chapter, where it speaks about how that which is, actually, let me just get it. Let's see if I can find that. Yep. It's 4th chapter, Salakia. Second Esdras chapter 4. And starting 28. It reads, "But as concerning the things whereof thou asked me, I will tell thee, for the evil is sown, but the destruction thereof is not yet come. If therefore that which is sown be not turned upside down," right? So these things have to, be completely uprooted, man, right? This whole system has to be ripped up from top to bottom, man. It says, "And if the place where the evil is sown pass not away," right? And we're seeking a new heaven and a new earth, man, right? So we can't get there without tribulation, right? It says, actually, well, I'll get that after, but for the Slakia, verse 29, "If that which is sown be not turned upside down, and if the place where the evil is sown pass not away, then cannot it come that is sown with good." So we can't get to the kingdom, right, until this place is completely destroyed, man, right? And that entails us having to go through, various trials and tests and tribulations, man, right? Having to overcome certain things, right? This is all the will of the Lord, right? Taking place in the earth, right? Now let me go back to, let's get this Acts again, because that pretty much echoes the same sentiment, right? Acts 14, Acts 14 and verse 22. It reads, "Confirming the souls of the disciples and exhorting them to continue in the faith, and that we must through much tribulation enter into the kingdom of the Most High," right? And we haven't entered into that much tribulation yet, man. We're going through tribulations, but these things are going to continue to intensify, continue to grow, right? In the in these times that we're walking into, man, right? As we go into the Jacob's trouble, as we go into the hour of temptation, right? These tribulations are going to continue to increase. And that's where our faith, right? That's where that strength, again, like it says, strengthening the believers, man, right? The how's it go? I think it speaks about the feeble knees, right? Let me see here in Isaiah. Yep, this is Isaiah 35. And starting in verse 3, it reads, "Strengthen ye the weak hands and confirm the feeble knees," right? So that going into your foundation, man, right? Continue to strengthen that foundation. Continue to build upon that rock, being Yahweh Shai, right? As brothers go into more and more exhortations, right? Because that's what's going to be required, right, in order to keep our spirits, what's the words, stable, right? As well as the studying that brothers do, watching, the listening to videos, fellowshipping, all these things are confirming, right, and strengthening the foundation that we're being established upon, man, right? Starting with Yahweh Shai, right? It says, say to them that are of a fearful heart, be strong, fear not. Behold, your power will come with vengeance, right? And that be strong, fear not, going back to, the point of the lesson, that this is all the will of the Lord to give us the kingdom, man, right? Everything that you see taking place in the world, right? The end goal is to give the kingdom to Yahweh Shai and his brothers, man, and the rest of the elect, right? Everything is set up to redeem the elect out of this wicked, evil world, man, right? It says your power will come with vengeance, even the Most High, with a recompense, he will come and save you, right? So this is what we understand to be true, right? We have, as the scriptures say, an expected end, right? Let me get that. Right? This is Jeremiah. Jeremiah 29, verse 11. It reads, for I know the thoughts that I think toward you, saith the Lord, right? His purpose, right? His good pleasure, right? Thoughts of peace and not of evil, right? Because the end goal is eternal peace, right? The end result, rather, is eternal peace. Whatever we go through in the interim, right, is inconsequential, right? These things don't matter, right, what we're dealing with right now. The only thing that is the vital concern is building that relationship with Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, maintaining in the spirit, because the spirit is what's going to allow us to get through all these trials and tribulations, man, to that peace, right? It says, and not of evil, to give you an expected end, right? And what is the expectation, right? Is that the Lord established Jerusalem, man, right? He established Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai. He established Yahweh Shai as that King of Kings, right? He established King David. He established 144,000. He established the rest of the elect, the innumerable multitude, right? And he ultimately bring back the rest of Israel, right, into the kingdom, man, right? That's the expected end, eternal peace, right? Eternal righteousness, eternal abundance. All these things are the expected end of the hopeful elect, right? I made a point. Let's get that. How's it go? I'll just read this again real quick. It's Jeremiah 29 and 11. For I know the thoughts that I think toward you. Actually, let's read this in the NLT. It reads, for I know the plans I have for you. Right? That's said the Lord. Right? This is the Lord's plan, man. Right? He knows the plan. He knows the end. And he's told his men the end. Right? And we just have to wait until wait. Right? That's why the scriptures say, be still and know that he is the Lord, man. Right? All we have to do is watch, wait, and pray. Right? And continue in the work, right? Continue in the legacy that we've been, placed in, man. Right? It says, they are plans for good and not for disaster, right? So everything that we see, right, shouldn't put fear in us, because we know that we have the expected end, right? We know what the will of the Lord is, It says to give you a future and a hope, and that's what we're looking toward, man. There's no future here, right? The scriptures tell you there's no continuing city, right? Nothing about this place is going to be continued, man, right? Nothing about this place is permanent. So what we understand is that all the bad that has to take place in order to have this place be uprooted, right, is again beneficial, right, for our expected end, man, right? And it's all the will of Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. It's all his good pleasure, right? Um, Let me see. There shall be a praise in the earth. Let me see. This is Isaiah 62 and verse 6. It reads, I've set watchmen upon thy walls, O Jerusalem, which shall never hold their peace day nor night. Right. So going back to that Psalm 51 and 18, right? The pleasure for Zion, right? You know, the warning going out, right? The prophets being sent forth is a sign of the Lord's mercy, man, right? Giving this warning, right, for the final judgment, right? It says, which shall never hold their peace day nor night. Ye that make mention of the Lord, keep not silence, and give him no rest till he establish, until he make Jerusalem a praise in the earth. Right? So this is what we're seeking, and this is what we're seeing, rather, right? We're crying out, we're keeping not silent until the Lord makes Jerusalem the centerpiece of the universe, man. Right? You know, he snatches the Holy Land from these Amalekites, man, right? And restores the earth to its full strength, right? He establishes a righteous rulership, right? He set up one that is profitable, as the scriptures say, man. But all these things have to come through great tribulation, great trials, great testing, you know? And that's why we're being, strengthened in these times now before, right, that ultimate hour commences, man, right? We're being built up to to endure what we're about to face, you know? So again, right, everything that you're seeing take place in the world is the good pleasure of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, man, right? Because its ultimate end is the establishment of Zion, man. I'll go back to that psalm and we'll close. Psalm 51 and verse 18, right? And this is where we cry out, you know. This is Psalm 51 and 18. Do good in thy good pleasure unto Zion. Build thou the walls of Jerusalem, right? And this is what's happening, is Jerusalem is being built, right? Because Jerusalem again is a people before it's a place, right? So Jerusalem is being built, established, strengthened, right? Before it, we ultimately end up in the kingdom, man, right? But his good pleasure unto Zion is us being built before our enemies, and then him tearing our enemies down, right? And then putting us up, Lord willing, we'll be at that number, you know? That's why it says in the NLT, look with favor on Zion and help her, right? He's going to help us. Lord willing, we continue. That's the the whole point, is us continuing in the faith, right? Being built up and strengthened, right? Rebuild the walls of Jerusalem, man, right? So as the walls are being built up spiritually, that it will ultimately end in the physical, manifestation of the walls being built up, man, right? In the kingdom, right? But again, this is all the good pleasure of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, right, in the earth, right? Everything that's happening with Trump, everything that's happening with Epstein, all the exposure, Amalek coming out, the great death that's about to happen in the earth, right? This is all the good pleasure of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai that's ultimately going to lead to the kingdom of Yasharallah being established, man. you know? So, just something quick through the spirit, Lord willing, that was edifying. I want to close by giving all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, Bashim Rakakwadash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone who rule well and teach well, and peace and blessings to the hopeful elect, pushing this word with all truth, righteousness, and sincerity. Shalom, shalom, a Kwam Yasharala, and the Baba Ball. Shalom.